USA Today newspaper for the last couple of years. It's great. It's a great buffet. But in Asia, you have buffets every five-star hotel. How do you take that to the next level? How do you take that in any development and say that this is going to be something that a discerning, luxury, affluent traveler is going to be able to say, yes, I want to go here because they have a memorable buffet of all things?
Several years ago, I had a chance to read a book entitled Integrated Resorts and Casinos by a very well-known professor in Las Vegas. He passed away 2 years ago. What's his name? Yeah,
Bill Eddington.
Professor Eddington, he wrote a book on integrated resorts and casinos. That's the title of the book. Basically, in the past, we have two concepts. You know, we talk about casinos, that is just gambling activities, and everything else supports the players, food, beverage, hotels, everything. And suddenly, we see a shift from gambling to family-oriented activities. You talk about, you know, parks. You talk about convention center. You talk about any other activities. And casino is now pushed back, and so we don't see anything called integrated resorts and casino anymore. We see it integrated resorts only. And now we're talking about integrated resorts as a primary, how do you call it, activity of a industry. I'm from Vietnam, and the government of Vietnam is very interested in, not in casino, but they know that very well that casino supports, you know, the other activities. So now, you know, I have the task of finding people who support the casino industry in Vietnam, but with the new name, euphemism, you know, integrated resort. So Vietnam government is very fun, very interested in that kind of, you know, name.
Thanks. And I'm picking up a little bit on what you and Bill spoke about. Will spoke about. I mean, every government I hear now, and every government that outreaches to us talks about wanting an integrated resort. I mean, almost at times I worry it's the new buzzword as opposed to having reality. I'm going to say this, you know, we passed on working in Altai, Siberia. Do we think that, you know, all these things can justify an integrated resort, or is there still sort of an appropriate location for a hotel with a casino? You know, without all the bells and whistles that come with it. I mean, are the governments right in every one of them saying wherever they go, the new thing is we want an integrated resort? Will you want to start?
In terms of governments around the region saying, yes, we want an integrated resort, in order not to dilute that term, I think there are certainly markets that can support integrated resort and some that cannot. It's a market-driven factor. It's around accessibility. It's around infrastructure. It's around being able to actually have supporting amenities within the community that really support a tourism destination, and not just because of the integrated resort. In kind of the market du jour, Japan these days, you have, on the flip side, you have markets such as Tokyo and Osaka, which would easily support multiple integrated resorts. And I think, Steve, your example of Siberia is probably one that's can.
Augustine?
You know, government around you know, the area. I was in Japan last week, and then I'm here, and then next few days I return to Vietnam and work in Vietnam. Very much as I said, everybody is interested in something called, you know, tourism activities. You know, you talk about economic development, social development. So whatever name you call it, integrated resort or anything, they don't like to call this stuff casino, because casino has a very bad connotation in the past. So everybody is very interested in the new name now. So in Vietnam is where I'm from. You know, every time we mention the word casino, everybody is against that. You know, the news, the reporters, they're all against. But when you talk about integrated resort with activities, and there's some casino in there, and everybody's happy. So I think, like you say, that, you know, in the region, everybody is now jumping on the bandwagon named integrated resort.
Ed, comments?
Yeah, I think there is always an expectation gap between what government wants and what we as an industry can provide. And, you know, my job as a development representative of MGM is to get that gap to be as small as possible. So what tends to happen is there is a very big expectation for a multi-billion-dollar investment, and the first thing is we want it to be miles away from anybody. So then you say, well, that's not possible. It needs to be near people, or it needs to be near airports so people can go there, because this is a people-driven business. And then they understand that. And then the second thing will be, well, we don't want our people to go to it. We need it to be a foreigners-only casino. And, I have a pretty clear line on this. In large markets in Asia, you need the support of domestic people in order to create the mass and the size of an integrated resort that has all the components. It's very, very difficult to do this, to do an integrated resort, which is a foreigners-only integrated resort. I know Caesar's going to have a good go at it, though. And so that education process of making the expectations gap smaller is what we try to do. And very often, there are a number of other issues that we have to discuss, but it gets complicated and it gets involved in politics. But really, that's the way that the integrated resorts ultimately get developed. Singapore was obviously a very good example here, where the government made a very clear decision. The government completely understood the parameters around which the operators could create an integrated resort of the type that Singapore wanted, and then the execution was excellent. And so, we would suggest that that type of model, from a process standpoint, should be a model that should be replicated in other Asian jurisdictions. The issue is it tends to get fudged a lot politically because of some of these other issues.
Got you. All of you touched on the concept that, the location has an impact. That you talk about accessibility, as an area, the tourist components, the local. I'd like to get your sense of how, in some of the IRs you've been involved